Hey guys, welcome to my One Piece theory video that involves chapters 1127 and 1128. This is going to be a theory that I've not heard anybody talk about. Maybe somebody did, but I didn't encounter it yet, so I just wanted to put it out there. And this is going to involve, obviously, spoilers from the most recent two chapters, 1127 and 28. So in case you have not caught up to the most recent chapters, please close this video right now and don't keep watching because I would not want to spoil you. That being said, I'm assuming that everybody who keeps watching is now up to date with the most recent chapters of One Piece. So I'm going to get right into it. First, the background. After the crew leaves Egghead Island, they leave on the ship of the Giants. They celebrate. They're on their way to Elbaf. There's giant furniture in the Giants ship. The ship itself is humongous, and all the humans on that ship and everybody else who is in Giant just looks really tiny in comparison to all the furniture on the Giants ship. And I believe that all of this is a very clever red herring by Oda, and I'll explain in a minute. So they're on their way to Elbaf, the land of the Giants. They drink absinthe with the Giants. They pass out, and they wake up in a Legoland. And in this Legoland, there's gigantic structures made of Lego. Everything is basically made of plastic. You have a giant cat. You have a giant snake. You have a giant bunny. You have a giant crow, and everything else. And you have a giant grasshopper, on which there is a human-sized giant-looking guy riding, which you can see right here. Now, why am I saying that the whole riding on the giant ship is a red herring? Oda has made sure to emphasize everything being giant in order to fool us, the readers, when it comes to perspective. And when I say perspective, I mean literal perspective. I mean the size of things and the proportions of things to other things. So, is this really a giant grasshopper? Or is it a regular-sized grasshopper? Is it a giant cat, or is it a regular-sized cat? Is it a giant crow, or is it a regular-sized crow? We find out that this whole area is basically locked up inside this kind of playpen that's blocked off by one-sided mirrors that are obviously meant for whoever we find out in this chapter is called the Sun God, to look in and basically look at his playthings. And obviously, relative to the size of the crew, he is a giant. But is he really a giant? My theory is that this entity has the ability to shrink things. Maybe even specifically to shrink humanoids or things like humans and giants. And in that case, what we're looking at isn't really Elbaf. Now, why did I come up with this theory in the first place? Because I believe that there's no chance that Luffy, Nami, Zoro, etc. are on Elbaf. Because if they were on Elbaf, why are the rest of the crew still on the Giant's ship who have not reached Elbaf yet? Now, you could say that they got teleported to Elbaf, but using Occam's razor, it would make sense that rather than all of the crew being teleported conveniently to Elbaf, instead they've gotten abducted to a place that is not Elbaf, but because the past few chapters have been Elbaf and Giant themed, Oda is fooling us into thinking that we are indeed in Elbaf right now and that this Legoland is somewhere in Elbaf. But according to my theory, it is not. It is a place that they've been abducted to before we've even reached Elbaf, which explains why the Giant's ship is still en route to Elbaf and everybody else has been abducted to some other place. And if this sun god has the ability to shrink things, then this Legoland is just a normal sized Legoland. The cat is just a normal cat, or at least a normal sized cat that can turn into a lion. The crow is a normal sized crow. The snake is a normal sized snake. And it's just that the crew have been shrunken to the point where they think that everything is giant and that they're on Elbaf. That explains why there's a giant that is human-sized, because obviously if the ability is to shrink creatures to a certain size or to just shrink them in general, then it doesn't matter if they're a giant or a human, you could just shrink them all to the same size. That's why this giant is the same size as the rest of the crew, and this grasshopper is a normal-sized grasshopper on which this giant is now riding. And the grasshopper is actually proportional to the size of a grasshopper would be relative to a cat that is also way more gigantic to the point where it could grab Usopp in its mouth, etc. So that's my theory. Basically, the crew are not in Elbaf. This is all a red herring, and Oda's playing tricks on us. He made us associate everything going on with giants and Elbaf and stuff like that, just so we would think that the crew are normal sized and everything around them is gigantic, rather than them being shrunken and everything else around them is normal sized. Let me know what you guys think about this theory. I just wanted to put it out there just in case that if this actually turns out to be true, then at least I put it out there that I figured it out beforehand. Have a nice day, guys.